financing gaps remain as big barriers to achieving the Sustainable Development Goals, particularly in the context of climate action. Vito, from your experience, what do you see as the most promising, innovative mechanisms to deliver both environmental and social impact?
There's a lot there, so I'm going to try to pack it all in. I want to start by saying finance is not just about numbers, it's about values. And it's about what kind of a world do we want to invest in, and then how do we restructure our current models so that we're in alignment with those goals. And so I know we have a diverse audience here, so I just want to take a step back and talk about why we have this financing gap and why it's important. So this year in July, UN leaders met in Spain for the 4th International Conference on Financing Development. And there was an acknowledgement that we are behind on the Sustainable Development Goals, and we are not on track to meeting the 2030 agenda. So to put it in context, to meet the Sustainable Development Goals, we have an annual financing gap of about $4 trillion. Annual global output is over $105 trillion. Yet we can't find the $4 trillion needed to pull nations out of poverty, to put girls in school, to get healthcare to those who need it, to develop and advance communities. So what this signals to me is that this is not a conversation about a lack of resources or a lack of capacity. We have the resources we need. It's an issue of will, in my opinion, collective will, political will, and it links back to what do we value and what are we willing to pay for. And so in the context of climate action, we know that certain regions and certain populations are disproportionately impacted by the effects of climate change. And the global financial system makes borrowing incredibly costly for a lot of these poor regions. And they're the ones that need the financing the most. So when you look at the global financial system, we need to fundamentally restructure how we're getting capital to those who really need it. So the bad news is that we're not on track to meeting the goals. The good news is that there's a lot of work being done in this space, and it's a relatively new space, so if any of you are interested, I'm happy to have a conversation because it is an all-hands-on-deck approach to solving this. Some of the mechanisms that are really promising that we're looking at now in industry are blended finance models, so philanthropic and public funds being combined to de-risk private investments, having more outcome-based metrics in place, having public disclosures, which I think we should go even a step further. I think companies should all publicly disclose their metrics, the impact they're having, their bottom line, so that we're able to really see who's part of the solution and who's still part of the problem so we can restructure things. But the mechanism that I'm most excited about is actually not a financial tool or metric. It's cross-sector social partnerships. And we talk about that a lot, but being able to really effectively do it is an incredibly hard thing because getting academia, government, private industry, nonprofits in the same room and having them be able to mediate, negotiate value, and then translate that value into outcomes is not an easy task because there's different logics, there's different agendas at play. So that's what I think about a lot now, is how do we get these different actors in a room and make sure that the outcomes are significant. And I think there's a lot of potential and promise there because when you get these people in a room, the thinking is no longer how do we finance projects, it's now how do we finance change and systemic impact, which is a huge difference. And so last thing I just want to say, I really want to emphasize that the private sector wants to be part of the solution. When I was working in government, we had companies come up to us all the time and say, we're working on the energy file. And they would say, we want to have sustainable business models, we want to be part of a just transition, but we don't know how. We've never done this before, this is new. And so they need a blueprint, and that's where the partnerships come in. And so I think there's a lot of opportunity for business and government to work together to solve some of these